What's good, everyone? Time for imamusicmogul. Welcome to a brand new video. Today we're gonna go ahead and remake Tyga's and Doja Cat's Freaky Deaky, so let's get straight to it. First things first, let's go and change our tempo to 104 beats per minute. We're gonna bring in the first instrument that's gonna be heard throughout the entire track, and that is the vintage electric piano. We're gonna use the default setting that loads up. We're just gonna change the type of electric piano sound from Deluxe Classic all the way down to the Stage Mark II. We'll come back here in a moment. Let's go ahead and just draw in that pattern. It is a 2-bar pattern. All right, so there's the pattern right there. Next, what we gotta do here is just adjust the velocity. It's coming a little bit too strong on this type of sound. We want a little bit more mellow, a little bit softer. So I'm gonna select all of our notes and I'm just gonna bring down the velocity, and it's gonna give us a nice, softer sound. All right, now let's go ahead and just draw in some of the bass notes here. All right, so there is our pattern over there. Next, let's go ahead and open up the electric piano plugin and just manipulate this a little bit. I'm going to pull down the bass. It's a little bit too strong. Make it a little bit louder. I'm going to pull up the intensity on the chorus here. Next, let's go over to the details tab over here. I'm going to pull down the decay. And just make sure our release is pulled down as well. It's not going to let the sound sustain as long. Next up, I'm just going to EQ it a little bit more here. I want to take out a little bit of this low end here. Maybe I'll bring down this bell sound a little bit as well. All right, next up, it's going to create a new softer instrument track. And for this sound, we're going to bring in Logic's ES1 synthesizer. We'll set that to mono. And we're going to bring in a nice clean bass sound. We're going to go to deep bass right over here. And I'm just going to copy this down over here. And we're just going to take the bass notes. Except these two, we're going to pitch down. I'm going to make the velocity a little bit stronger on this one. Except I don't want it that buzzy, so I'm going to pull up an EQ. And we're just going to filter out some of the low end here. Let's clean it up a bit, and we'll take off a lot of the top as well. So what we're left with is this nice, clean bass sound. All right, next up, we're gonna go ahead and bring in the electric guitar. Now, the stock samples in Logic are not the best. I love Logic, but the guitar samples are not the greatest, but we'll make do with what we have. We're gonna go over to our browser here. We'll go to Legacy, we'll go to Logic, we'll go to Guitars, Electric Guitars, and we're gonna bring in the Sunburst Electric right over here. And let's go ahead and, actually, we don't need to redraw the chords because our chords are right over here. Except let's go ahead and just put that in the right spot. All right, like I said, not the greatest sound, but we'll try and make our best out of it. Before we do, let's go ahead and just draw in the bass notes here. All right, so the first thing we want to do is turn off this amp. We don't want that distorted sound. All right, what we're going to do here now is bring in some modulation. We'll go to chorus, and we're going to bring in a preset here called Guitar Summer. The next thing that we're going to do here is we're going to go to amps and pedals and bring in the amp designer right over here. We're going to go over to a preset found under clean called Custom Studio Clean. So we'll turn on the reverb on this. Already sounds a little bit better, but we're going to add in a little bit more presence with this presence knob right over here. All right, so that's pretty much the foundation to the entire track. What I'm going to do now is just duplicate this over, and we're going to work on the second part of the track. So our bass actually switches up. We're going to create a new software instrument track. We're going to copy down the same pattern. And for our guitars, since we're going to bring in a new bass, we're going to take out this. So for that bass, we're going to go over to our library browser over here. We're going to go to a preset from one of my presets. We're going to go to Toronto Views, and we're going to use the bass Moog Bass preset here from the Toronto Views preset kit. It's going to sound like this. Except we don't want it that buzzy, so we're going to open up an EQ. I'm just going to shape that as well. Get a nice bass sound on that. It's a little bit grittier than the other one. Make sure we take out that one. I'm going to pull that back a little bit. Something like that. All right, next up, let's go ahead and bring in the drum kit. We'll create a new software instrument track. We'll go to our patches, and we'll bring in the Freaky Deaky drum kit. I should have named it drum kit. It's just Freaky Deaky kit here. And I'm going to bring in the snap sound. Ooh. Gonna go on the 2 and 4s, old habits. And we're also gonna get a crash sound over here, just one. And then from there, we're gonna go into the third section of this track. So I'm gonna go ahead and just copy this back over here. And we're going to draw in pretty much the verses. So let's go ahead and just start off with our clap sound. The hi-hat sound will go just to an 8th. It's going to be a 2-step kind of thing. We'll get this crash in at the top. All right, now let's get to our kick. All right, one thing in the verses that a lot of mixers do on instruments is because some instruments live in the same frequency range as vocals, they want to sort of dull that out a little bit to leave space for the vocals. And that's what they did in this track as well. So for our keyboard over here, I'm just going to copy that down. It's not going to be as bright. So what happens to this, we sort of just take out some of the top end. And that leaves space for the vocals. And the same thing we're going to do with our guitar. On this one, we're just going to pull down the presence so it's not so bright. Leave space for the vocals. All right, and then we're going to go ahead and create a new software instrument track, and we'll bring in that bell sound that happens in the verses. We'll bring in Logic's Alchemy for that sound. Then we're just going to go over to our search tab over here. We're just going to type in bell. And we're going to bring in the 80s analog bell sound right here. And let's go ahead and just draw in that pattern. Put that nice in the background, and maybe we'll just make it a little bit more muffled. All right, so here we are back with the arrangement. I also did a little bit of mixing. It was a little bit too quiet before, made it nice and loud. So there were a couple things I did change up. I have this reverse crash over here, which is essentially our crash from over here. Took it, bounced it, reversed it, just so we get a nice transition from one section to the next. And then on our chorus section over here, I added in a pad just to fill it up, make it a little bit bigger. And our guitar sound also changed, our guitar pattern also switched up a little bit. It gets this sort of like a strum pattern like this. But other than that, everything else is the same, so sit back, relax, enjoy. Listen to me, we just put together Tyga's and Doja Cat's Freaky Deaky. Let's go. Alright, so right there is Tyga's and Doja Cat's Freaky Deaky remade in Logic Pro. For those of you who use Logic, I'll place a link to the session down in the description box below this video. If you don't use Logic, I'm going to go ahead and include a play pack that will include the MIDI stems, audio stems, and the drum kit that we used in this remake. You can find that playback down below the like button as well. But other than that, that's it for me. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed this remake. If you have any questions on this or just want to chat, let's go and talk in the comment section below. And as usual, I hope you all have a fantastic day, morning, night, whenever you're watching this video. And I'll catch you on the next one. Later.